Shalom everyone, you all here for Hebrew in Israel. I have to speak a little quietly because I'm on the train. Wow, long day, a lot of thoughts, a lot of things to try to understand exactly. I'm going to say the following, and I think this is the best way to put it. I personally, from the observation I've done around the northern Negev, through the Jordan Valley, roads that lead to the Jordan Valley even, we're mostly seeing green. Green basically means that even if we find small quantities of Aviv, and we found very, very small quantities. We're talking about quantities which are fragmented, mostly fragmented between different parts. There's a bit of an anomaly here. I think it has a little bit to do with the environment recovering from 5 years of drought, but I'm not too sure. We're actually thinking of going into maybe an archive of some agricultural information to see if we can find patterns that indicate such things. But the main point is that, at least as the way I understand it and my colleague understands it, there's not Aviv right now. The places where we saw patches might produce Aviv in about 2 to 3 weeks. But the rule that we go by is that the Aviv has to be sighted before the new moon and not after. That's the rule we go by. If you go by a different rule, that's your business. My job here is to really calling, whatever you want to call it. I'm very, very tired, only about 5 hours of sleep and a lot of traveling in 2 days. I did do some observations up north where I live. Super green, like we're talking about as if we're in the middle of winter, which we technically are. I mean, for those who followed what I put on Facebook, you could see that we walk into a storm, and the storm covered the majority of the mountain range of Israel. But right now, maybe someone else will find something that we couldn't see. We drove around a lot, a lot of hours in different fields, running around. We really worked until it went completely dark, to a point where we just couldn't see anything. We reached the top of the Jordan Valley where it just went pitch black by that point. So as far as I can tell, as far as I understand it, we can't say that there's Aviv. So my understanding is that there's no Aviv. If another group that I trust comes forward with data that shows differently, or again, they might interpret what we saw differently. It's some of it's an issue of interpretation. Then they might say something a little different. But, me being the individual that I am, based on the data that I found, if it were drier this year, it could have been a state of Aviv, but it was pretty wet. And I think the fields are just trying to recover, which caused places with what my colleague called anomalies of Aviv. But we're talking about, if I talk about a field, an area like a field the size of 5, 6, 7 football fields, and I find a patch here, a little bit there, 1 or 2 inside a whole bunch, that there's 2 Aviv and 20 not, or something like that. I think that's pretty straightforward. That's not a state of Aviv. I know farmer in his right mind would even consider thinking about the direction of harvesting for anytime soon. That's what I have to report. So again, just to reiterate, northern Negev, whole bunch of different fields in the northern Negev. Not much of Aviv, but a few bits and pieces here and there. Jordan Valley, mostly green, and I'm talking about green on a level where it could be empty or barely producing a seed, and a few here and there which are in a state of Aviv. And it's an anomaly, and we're going to be asking someone about these types of anomalies, but hopefully the train just started moving, so this is why everything's rattling. But mostly green. We're talking about, if I think about it as a widespread phenomena, then completely green. nothing else. You can't even start talking about harvest anytime in the next couple of weeks. So again, that's what I saw. If someone disagrees, they disagree. If someone agrees, they agree. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm only here to tell you what I saw. Decisions are for decision makers to make. My position here is, for me, I think that there's no Aviv. If you understand this differently, if you understand the data differently, then you understand it differently. The reason I do this is because calendars are very controversial. Everyone likes arguing about it. It caused my very good friend to leave the Aviv searches, and I just don't want to be dragged into it, because I don't want to stop doing this. So I'm only going to present data. My personal opinion is no Aviv. If someone has a different opinion, they have a different opinion. In any case, this is Yoel Halevi for Hebrew in Israel. Thank you for following me, and thank you for everyone who supported. And God willing, hopefully, I am interested in seeing what happens in a month. So my colleague and I have been talking about the idea of going out a month again if we're able. But I've actually studied a lot of calendars and a lot of reports of calendars, and I've been discussing calendars with one of my professors who's an expert, and there's no such thing as a 14th month. So it has to be 13th month and then nothing, if you base yourself on the idea of adding a 13th month in the yearly articulation. If you don't, then it's a completely different discussion. Thank you, everyone. Kol Tuv.